have got to talk about the news of the minute, of I think probably the month and maybe even the year.
Oh, okay.
This is huge. This is huge. You know, the impact that it's going to have upon the epilepsy community, which is yet to be seen, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the impact that it's going to have upon folks who have epilepsy.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new definition of epilepsy.
We do.
We do.
We
And
do.
and there's this group of guys, okay, and I guess they are guys, probably the majority of them are guys, okay, and they're called the International League Against Epilepsy. And these are the guys they're all neurologists and epileptologists and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while they get together and who knows what, you know, they sit around and decide things.
I already told you what I thought they did. It's all right. I'll let you get through this before I start throwing my glasses.
Okay, okay. But they're the ones who decide on policy and different things such as that in the world of epilepsy. They also decide what a seizure is, okay? But and such as, you know, they're the ones who put names and labels on different types of seizures. They, oh, that's seizure A instead of seizure B. Okay, and that's part of what they do. Now, what they did is they revisited the definition of epilepsy,
Okay.
and they changed it.
They did.
They changed it in a variety of different ways.
I'm gonna let you tell the folks because I'm
Okay, I'm going to read this just to make sure I got this
Okay.
absolutely correct, okay? A person is considered to have epilepsy if they meet the following conditions. Condition number 1, at least 2 unprovoked or reflex seizures occurring greater than 24 hours apart. So they're saying you have to have 2 unprovoked seizures. That means that you have to have 2 seizures that don't have any direct cause for them, okay? Or that you have a reflex seizure, such as if you're exposed to flashing lights and you have a seizure. Okay, so like a photosensitivity.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Condition number 2, you can have 1 unprovoked or reflex seizure and a probability of further seizures similar to the general reoccurrence risk. That's at least 60%. Or after 2 unprovoked seizures occurring over the next 10 years. Let me read that sentence complete without the stop. 1 unprovoked or reflex seizure and a probability of further seizures similar to the general reoccurrence risk after 2 unprovoked seizures occurring over the next 10 years.
That seems like a lot of time to be able to figure out that you have a condition, that they would take over its. Am I understanding that if over the next 2 years, if I have 2 unprovoked seizures, then I have epilepsy?
Correct. Yeah.
So if I had one today,
Okay.
and then I have one 10 years from now, then I have epilepsy.
Well, 9 years and 364 days.
You know what I'm saying? But okay, so go ahead and read the third one before I start on my rant.
Okay. Diagnosis of an epilepsy syndrome. Okay, that's number 3. That's the third condition. If you are diagnosed with an epilepsy syndrome, okay, and syndromes are epilepsy syndromes are a group of certain symptoms, okay, or certain familiar types of what am I looking for?
I'm not for sure.
Certain familiar aspects,
Okay, like
Okay.
characteristics or something.
characteristics
Okay.
that are shared within that particular specific group.
So he's talking like age onset.
Okay,
and-
excellent,
Or
excellent.
something like that.
Age of onset, type of seizures, What's the prognosis for those particular types of seizures? Do they go away at a certain age? Are they going to be a lifetime occurrence? And also how they respond to medications and what medications they respond to. Those are the aspects that a syndrome actually share, that a particular syndrome will have in common. So and it's kind of easy, because what it does is it lets you know what's going to happen when somebody's diagnosed with these particular things.
Right.
Okay, so if you're diagnosed with an epilepsy syndrome, and epilepsy is considered to be resolved for the individual, in other words, it's gone into remission, who have an age-dependent epilepsy syndrome but are now past the applicable age, or those who have remained seizure-free for the past 10 years with no seizure medicine for the past 5 years. So you're considered cured of your epilepsy if you remain seizure-free for 10 years and 5 years without any medication.
After the 10 years, or in the duration of the 5?
In the duration of the 10 years, 5 years of that has to be without meds. Okay? Here's the other thing, that epilepsy is no longer considered a neurological disorder.
Right, I see that they're saying that seizures and epilepsy are not the same.
That's true, that's
Okay.
true, that's true. But they're saying that epilepsy is no longer a neurological disorder, it is a disease.
Let the games begin. All right, well, okay, I guess for me, this is why it's frustrating, because we've spent so much time, and I get it. I mean, I know that things happen and we have to evolve and see other information that goes into it, but I feel like there's always been this being a major advocate for promoting that it's not a disease, because I feel like people come into hearing a disease and we still get caught up in the way we use our words as far as with the usage. So to me, a disease makes it seem like it's something that's deadly, like it's going to put you in a position where you're not able to function, or that you don't have the same. I just feel like that's such a heavy word to put on epilepsy when I think about people that are really suffering from diseases. So I feel like for it to be combined now and saying it's a disease, it takes away from a lot of the, I guess, being able to dispel people's stigmas on epilepsy. So coming from a person in the epileptic community, here it is, I feel like I'm starting all over again, having to explain to people, yes, I have a disease. So if they say I have a disease, especially since I work with kids, and I tell my kids when I'm having seizure activity or something like that, when they ask me now, like, well, were you sick? So I go, and I've been teaching them that, no, I'm not sick, I just have epilepsy. So now with saying a disease, to me, is saying that I am sick. And I don't agree with that. And I feel like there are so many people that work towards putting themselves above saying they have a disease. We are trying to beat the odds already. So now to come and say this, is like, it kind of brings you back down, and having that confidence about being able to move forward. Because, I mean, not to say like there's anything else, but even with, it's not a death sentence, but but when you hear those things, when we talk about different diseases, if you talk about just off the top, even about cancer, those things that's something that you're not for sure which way it's gonna go. It can go into remission, it can't, and I guess I can see that, how that works with epilepsy, but I don't feel like it doesn't put us in a place where we're not able to function.
Right.
So I think that's my issue, and I know we talked about it, that maybe the way this information is worded is not necessarily for the regular Joe on the street that may have epilepsy, but this becomes confusing. But because how do we continue as epileptics to educate on it if we don't have clear information to be able to have? I'm a big person on clarity, And
I
with reading
understand.
this information, it makes me feel like I'm in an uneasy state. So, like even going down to, okay, now we're talking about different conditions, the disease, seizures, epilepsy. There's just a lot of different vocabulary words there that now are kind of, it's like mixing it in a cake that doesn't work. Like you're trying to make a carrot and a red velvet cake at the same time, and that doesn't work. It's not gonna, I mean, and maybe it'll iron itself out, and maybe I'm just feeling a little uneasy about it because I know how much I've gone into the community and said, no, this is a neurological condition or a disorder.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I don't know how many times I wish I had a dime every time I said that.
We'd be rich.
Yeah. And,
Or on our way.
and the other part of that is that, in the interest of folks who have epilepsy, okay, you're not trying to take anything away from the seriousness of the condition, but, you're also trying to convey the facts to the person, to other people who may not be knowledgeable about it. That,
That's scary.
that epilepsy isn't all that much for somebody who has it, that it isn't like a condition that's going to prevent you from having a job.
Right.
That's probably, in at least half the cases, not going to prevent you from driving a car.
Right.
That it's not going to prevent you from pursuing your life's dreams. Okay? That's the message that at least I try to keep in the forefront in talking to folks who about epilepsy. And I think that's also what you're trying to do.
Yeah, the
Also,
encouragement.
and suddenly it's like, well, it's a disease now.
And that can be depressing. I mean, like when I hear that, I'm like, I don't want to claim that I have a disease, because to me it's something that can, it's not, we can't say that it'll go away, but it's definitely something that you said it doesn't have to disable my whole life or my dreams. And to me, it's like you sit someone down and say you have a disease called epilepsy, and people don't understand epilepsy now anyway, and that's what we're working so hard towards. Now, the only thing that I can say on it after reading and, with us discussing it, was playing devil's advocate about the reason that they're saying that it's a disease is to make it, to help people to understand the seriousness of it, that it should be taken seriously. But it's still like a catch-22.
I understand that part of it, but you talk to people who have epilepsy, who have complete control over their seizures, okay? And most of them will tell you, when I go into a job interview, I don't tell those people when they're interviewing me and haven't offered me a job that I have epilepsy.
Right.
And I say, tell us a little bit about yourself. You go,
I
have epilepsy.
Wait until you get the job, friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It isn't something that you lead with.
No. And people do. They look at you differently. They start to think if you're capable of being able to do that. So much even in the field that I am, it's always about the safety of the child. So if you have epilepsy, and because they're not asking you, is it controlled? They're not asking you those things, so they just think you're going to fall out one day because everybody has the same type of epilepsy. So, so then they've already decided to, and I think that part with the disease is to label you, to track you. And it does. And it's sad that you have to hide certain things to make
People
sure.
already, the general public already take it very, very seriously, okay? And I think what we're trying to do, it's like with Coach Kill.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah.
Well, what was it? He has a seizure, one seizure in
Like 11 years.
and they're talking about he's not capable of being a coach.
Right.
Even though he's won he's won the division and this and that and everything else, and is more than capable. Okay.
Right.
Still, there were people that were saying, well, he's got
Take him off.
epilepsy.
Take him
He
off.
shouldn't be coaching a football team.
Right.
Okay? And you know.
But nobody said Lil Wayne couldn't make any more songs because he had epilepsy. So, I mean,
So we all got to get in the entertainment business, is that it?
we got to do something.
But you know what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
This is just not, you know, it's you know, they sure were taking it. They sure were taking it seriously when he had his seizure.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they were sure taking his epilepsy seriously enough, more than seriously enough. Okay. They were getting ready to kick him out.
And then I feel like they must have got some bad press about it, because then they came back and started to say that they supported Coach Gill. But that's the thing, how do you have this, and I think that that's what happens. You have people, whether it's with epilepsy or not, you have them working towards the greater good. You use them all up with, what's my song? You keep on using me until you use me up. And he messed around and had a seizure, and even if he had one twice a month or however, that, I mean, when you put it in a perspective, there are people that are having them 30 times a day, you know, and just to say, oh, well, you know, because to me, it's about what the presentation is going to be. Does this make us look okay? Does this make our football team look okay because he's over here having a seizure?
And that's what it was about. Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
And you know, so people take seizures and take epilepsy plenty seriously when it comes to whether you can do your job or whether you can participate fully in life. Okay. But on the other side, you know, that's one of the reasons that I take the tack that I do, saying that, you know, epilepsy isn't that big of a deal for most people who have it. You know, it's, they have to do some common sense kind of things and take care of themselves, but otherwise, they're capable.
And don't we all? You know what I mean? To just have preventive, just to have better health for ourselves, you know, so you know, exactly. I don't know, I mean, I get it, and I feel like maybe after, you know, we get used to it, maybe there'll be maybe this is, like we said, just more directed to physicians and
I hope
things.
so. But I think this could be a really a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You know, because the stated purpose for them moving epilepsy from a neurological disorder to a disease was so that people would begin to take it more seriously. And you know, apparently these guys aren't out there looking for jobs. Right. Who have epilepsy. Right. You know, they don't have epilepsy themselves. They don't know how seriously it gets taken, you know, in all aspects of a person who has its life. You know? Right. And then it's not like it's easy to even be eligible for disability, because honestly, if people start to look at that in a different way, it's gonna be like, well, we can't hire you, or you can't do this. Whether they can, I mean, of course, they can't flat out tell you that, if, you know, it's with all of the laws and all of that. We know darn well what happened.
Right, you know,
so. Hey, you want to go to the prom? By the way, I have epilepsy. You know, see how many prom dates you get for that.
You don't get many. I didn't even, well, I did have prom dates, but like when we would, you know, guys would ask to date or something, and I would tell them, like, are you going to fall out at the movies? Like, you going to leave me there? I mean, can I get a phone call, something? But that's part of it too. Right, and now you telling somebody they've got a disease, and they're like, how long you got to live? You gonna get through the movie? Plan on croaking, having a seizure?
You get a small popcorn instead of a large one.
No candy for you. Next thing you know, you be choking on it. No, we can't have that.
Well, but you know, that's the whole thing.
People take it serious. Yeah.
For those of us who are in this day in and day out, it's no, you know, that's no picnic.
I find that more people don't say, oh, okay, they usually do.
And then you got to do the sell job.
Right.
It's a sell job. You're doing a sell job for yourself. Oh, well, this happens, you know, but I'm okay. This is blah, 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 blah.
And it's so hard that you can tell them everything. You can tell them what to do. You can do all of those pieces. But when it comes down to it, they're still thinking about the liability on them.
Yeah.
And with that whole sense of liability, I mean, it really does. It puts you in a difference. You have to be the, I mean, not to suggest that you shouldn't anyway, but you have to be the best of what you do to be taken seriously with saying such a serious thing as far as.
So I got a disease.
Yeah, like, what is it? And you know, and then people already think about what we've dispelled, even with, if I touch you, can I get epilepsy or any of those things? We just have a sense of, just overall as a population, I feel like we find ourselves being ignorant about a lot of things because we don't want to research. But then when you've got different types of research and work, how do you get to a place where you find yourself comfortable with knowing the information? Because if I wasn't here, I could still be going out telling people like, this is a condition, this is a disorder, and it's not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's now considered a disease.
And overnight you've got a disease.
Right.
You know, and the whole thing of it is, it's actually kind of like, you know, they did this, they just dropped this kind of bomb on people. It's like there wasn't any, you know, they didn't ease us into this thing at all. It's like one day this is released.
Right, no survey, no talking to anybody else. I mean, I guess it wouldn't matter what an epileptic would want, but you know, they make up new words every day. We got all of these different drugs that they say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious 100 milligrams. So, I mean, we should be able to do something. I feel like and maybe that would be in my perfect world, but I feel like people who have epilepsy need to be involved with the things that are happening in it. I get it, you're an epileptologist, you're a neurologist, you are very, you know, you are knowledgeable on those things, but taking it from an individual that may be discriminated upon.
That is going to be directly impacted.
Definitely.
Okay, and maybe some of that, maybe there should have been a little bit of that feedback that takes place.
Emotionally, all of those things, you can send somebody in if they got caught up in it, because we do know people that they either rise or they sulk in their epilepsy. And if they take this, and it's like, all this time I've been pumping myself up to be, you know, to be at this place, and now I feel like I get bumped back because now they're saying that I have a disease. And then to me, it's like you're not only treating the disease, well, you're not just treating the epilepsy, but now you got to worry about how can this person be counseled into feeling better about their situation. I just feel like those pieces haven't been taken into consideration. And it's, you know, like I said, we all got to get used to change.
But the other point is, what happens to your credibility? Hey, Margaux, you know, all this time you've been telling me this stuff is a neurological disorder, and now you're telling me it's a disease? Well, which is it?
And we're the ones that the people are going to see first, not the
LAE.
They're going to see us.
Yeah,
Like, why don't you
exactly.
go talk to the International League Against Epilepsy?
Yeah.
And they're like,
Ask them that question.
Right.
No, you're the one who's going to have to
deal with the flag.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You know, it's like, I don't think they considered that either. You know, in their defense.
Okay.
In their defense, I think one of the reasons that they decided on these particular definitions and moving it is from a neurological disorder to a disease, it might have to do with insurance. Okay, and coding things and insurance definitions. Okay, in order to ensure that maybe people with epilepsy get better medical attention and maybe at a sooner time. Okay, so I think that probably has a lot to do with this. But still, I think they should have at least alerted the epilepsy community
Some way.
before all this came down.
Because where would this, okay, let's just say, I didn't know this, I don't know you. I mean, you know what I mean? How would I find this out? If I'm not privy to going to the, you know, because there are some people that are just comfortable with what they know. So, you know, if I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have this, how would I ever know? You know, or, I mean, I guess if you're going to would my neurologist tell me this? Would my epileptologist tell me this?
Your question
You
leaves me
know,
clueless.
yeah.
Leaves me clueless.
So how do I know? And then again, and that's how do we empower people, or how do we educate them the appropriate way if we're not prepared with the right tools and materials to help them?
Yeah. And is your neurologist or your epileptologist even going to take that time to say, hey, you know what, Margaux, this has changed.
Right.
This isn't the same way it used to be.
Right.
Basically, it means the same thing. You see, you know, in the final figuring or the final, you know, tallying of this whole thing, it still means that basically you're going to pretty much live the same way.
Right.
You know, you're still going to be doing the same things, but in another big way, it's kind of changed.
It has. I mean, people are already having, it takes a while to even define, not like that people don't get it, but really having people understand just the difference between having a seizure and having epilepsy.
Yeah.
So, you know, now it's from, okay, let's make sure we understand seizure, let's make sure we understand epilepsy, and then epilepsy as a disease. I mean, I don't know, it just feels like when you think about a disease, it's attacking something, like it's breaking down the immune system or something like that, and that by far is not what happens with epilepsy. So hopefully, like you said, there's both sides, two sides of the story, and you know, just being hopeful that it will be something that helps both sides, and that it does help, especially with the insurance, because I do understand that medicine is like crazy expensive.
Yeah, and you know, and I think that the good part of that is that, you know, they did when they defined what epilepsy is. Okay, they said, you know, if you have one unprovoked seizure, okay, and you got a 60% or greater chance of having another seizure, and they can tell that stuff in a lot of cases, okay, that we can begin to treat you then instead of waiting for that second seizure to happen, and maybe there being some kind of catastrophe that arises out of that. That gives that physician more leeway to deal with that patient who's coming into their waiting room and into their office with that unprovoked seizure that says, hey, look, you know,
we need to help them now.
Yeah, we need to help them now, and so let them go out and maybe hurt themselves
or someone else
or somebody else, and then trying to deal with the aftermath of that. If we can prevent that second seizure from actually happening, that's probably the coolest thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, still,
it's got some humps to get over.
Yeah, and you know, as does getting that diagnosis. What happens if you're one of the, you know, it says 60% or greater.
Right.
Okay. What happens if you're one of the 40%?
Right.
Who never has another seizure?
Right.
You know, then you got that on your medical records.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
That can, you know, that changes your life drastically too.
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
so, you know, I think there's good and there's bad in this. We're going to have to see how this shakes out. I haven't seen anything from the epilepsy community itself, and by that I don't mean doctors. Okay, I don't mean, you know, nurses or anybody that's, you know, anybody like that's in the epilepsy helping area. Okay, but from people who have epilepsy.
Oh, don't you worry about it. I'm on Facebook and Twitter today. As soon as I get out of here, I'm like, really? Disease now? Find out more information.
We need this discussion.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm interested. Okay, I would love to hear from people as far as how they feel about this.
Yeah.
People who have epilepsy or their family members, how they feel about suddenly, you know, Johnny doesn't have a seizure disorder. He's
Oh, you know what? And I know somebody
got a disease.
Yeah, I have somebody where we're following each other, but she has an epilepsy blog. So I'll try to see if we can like get together or something and see what everyone's input. I mean, it's not going to change anything, you know, but to know, I bet you we'll find more people that don't know than know. I mean,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
information is definitely privy and not to everybody, so.
Yeah. So I just want to know how everybody feels about it.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be telling
So that's gonna be your,
Yeah.
your assignment for next month?
you. Yes, I'll be on it.
I would love to know, how do people feel about this new change in the world of epilepsy?
Yeah,
Because certainly it's gonna have an impact.
it is.
Words have impacts.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
And terms have impacts,
Mhm.
and definitions have impacts. Let's see what the impact of this is gonna be over the long term.
Let's hope it's positive, and, you know, we just continue to find out more. I won't get too mad at the ILAE.
And any comments that you have, you can certainly send them to the International League Against Epilepsy.
No, but then they'll start doing something else, and then they'll be
Then they'll
changing the
screw-
JME. And I'll just, you know, I will figure out, I'm gonna get some stuff together to find out how people feel about this, and I'll report next month.
You promise?
I promise. And since the show is before my birthday, I'll definitely be here, because, yeah, my birthday is June 16th, so I'm gonna be out of the office.